All right, joining me today is Quillan Salkilld, who fights Anshul Jubilee at UFC 312 this weekend, February 8th in the United States, February 9th down under. So, Killian, I want to start here. Obviously, an exciting week. We want to talk about this fight, but I want to talk about your path to the UFC too, because, we watched your Dana White Contender Series fight, but you actually watched your teammate fight just before that, get the contract, Cody Hedon. So, let me ask you a question. Watch him get the contract. Does it make you more nervous? Does it make you less nervous? Did it increase the pressure? What did you feel after seeing him get it done?
It pumped me up. It made me want to, follow along and do, equally as well, which, obviously going to add a bit of pressure because it's like I have to match it. So yeah, man, that pumped me up watching Cody compete. And obviously before this one, watched Cody also make his debut towards the end of last year, and now I get to have mine. So same thing, pressure's on to have an equally as impressive performance as he did.
I like it. Now, it also, obviously you have that really impressive performance on the Contender Series. You get to sit in the chair, and Dana said some really nice things about you, right? He loved the fight, he loved the performance and stuff like that. What was it like for you to sit there and kind of get to hear your now boss critique your work?
Oh, it was wicked. The best part was when he said it sounded like heavyweights going at it in there when Gage and I were hitting each other. That was my favorite bit. That was when he in the post presser for him. He said that yeah, it reminded him of when Francis and I think Stipe fought like years ago in the Apex. So that was my favorite critique of Dana's.
And what was sort of your take on the Apex? Because I've heard different things. People like the small environment. People like being able to hear their coaches. And I know other people hate being there. They hate the idea of, like not having a huge crowd like you're going to have this weekend. What was sort of your take on the situation?
It was weird just walking to the actual cage and when there's like not much people there, it felt yeah, it just felt weird. But obviously once the fight starts, everything zones out anyway. If there was a million people or one person, it's just tunnel vision towards my opponent. Everything else is kind of, you know, out of sight, out of mind.
Absolutely. And now let's talk about, the tunnel vision to this week's fight. And you're fighting, in Australia, which I have to assume is a dream come true when it comes to debuting in the UFC. Like getting to debut in the UFC pretty special, getting to fight in Australia pretty special, doing them at the same time. What does it mean to you right now?
Man, I'm on top of the world. Like this is the obviously what I've been working towards forever, and I actually get to make my debut in, pretty much at home. Obviously, I have to fly across, the country. It's actually still a 4 hour flight away from me, so not home, but it's home. So home soil. So yeah, it's definitely a dream come true.
And out of curiosity, like you said, it is a 4 hour flight. We're not talking about fighting in your backyard or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it make the weight cut and all that goes along with that much easier because you're used to we're talking about crazy flights, right? We're talking about 24-hour flights
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah, it's got to make the weight cut a little bit easier, yeah, because yeah, not don't have to travel as much. But when we traveled to Vegas for Contender Series, we did get in much earlier. I think we got there 10 days before the fight. Opposed to here was like 6 days or something. So we had more time to like acclimatize because of the, massive flight and the time difference. Now we only need to adjust like with Sydney's 3 hours ahead of Perth, so it's not an issue.
That's awesome. Now, and obviously we're talking to you only a few days before the fight, which is later than I usually talk to fighters for these kinds of
Yeah.
things. So tell me, what's the weight cut like? You told me you're trying to fill up your schedule so that your brain's not thinking too much. So tell me a little bit about where you're at fight week wise.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying it. I like doing things on fight week. Obviously, if I'm just sitting down doing nothing, I'm just thinking about desserts and pizzas and shit. So I like to, keep moving and, keep my mind occupied. So doing all the media stuff, doing interviews, walking about, one of my favorite pastimes just, it is a new city. Like I've never really been to Sydney before. I've been here on a layover for a few hours, but other than that, this is like brand new place to me. So I like just like walking, in the city, just having a look. So I like to be busy on fight week.
All right. Well, I'm not going to torture you on this question though, but you brought it up first. So, you're talking about ice cream and pizza. So, do you have a go-to meal for after fight week? Do you have after you're done with a fight a thing that you go to?
Man, it's usually burgers, man. I've had most of my fights in Perth, and a great friend of our teams is like a burger place called Royale's. So usually after the fights, we'd go there and just indulge in burgers. And after the Contender Series fights, Chick-fil-A, something I wanted to try. So that was good. So it's usually burgers. Anything just with grease and cheese is it's getting inhaled.
All right. And so, do we have a plan for after this one? Like, do we have a burger place circled? Or we, like, have we been doing some scoping out in our walkarounds?
Not really, but there's places. Anything with cheese. That's what I'm craving right now. I don't care about anything else. Bread and cheese.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about the other thing you care about, which is obviously this fight. Anshul Jubilee, known for his wrestling. That's kind of been his MO so far in the UFC. Is that sort of the game plan you're expecting from him? Is that sort of the stylistic fight you're planning on?
No, I thought his specialty was his striking. Like shit, like I always thought that. Like everyone's been like saying that too. Like even in my comments is saying that it's like Australia has the power, India has the ground game. I'm like I thought to me personally, for what I've seen, I think his kickboxing's better than his grappling, just from what I've seen in his fights. I think he's quite tidy on the feet. I was thinking that he would probably want to keep it standing with me, and I'd be the one probably mixing it up and shooting. But it'll probably be, both of us shooting on each other. I reckon it'll be a well, what's it like a classy fight with two guys mixing in everything. It's not going to be one guy standing, one guy trying to take it to the mat. It's going to be both guys, hitting each other and both guys shooting, trying to, win position on the ground. So it's going to be a very, mixed martial arts fight, as you say.
I like that. I like that. Now, I have to ask this question next because a co-host of a podcast I do asked me to ask it. His last opponent started barking at him in the third round and then eventually knocked him out. Has it dawned on you to possibly work the barking into your game?
Yeah, well, I thought maybe if I start from round one, it might be a quicker night. But that's not really me, maybe once I get into it and emotions start to fly during the fight, maybe I might have to pull that out if I remember, but I doubt I'll remember. I always have things it's like I want to do this as a celebration after the fight. I never remember. I never do. I just totally focused on the actual fight and what's coming at me. I never tend to, do anything in terms of like taunts or talking to my opponents, but you never know what's going to change.
Well, that brings me perfectly to my last question then, because you're talking about executing in the cage and that's what you're focused on. So give me your prediction. How's this one end come February 8th?
I think I'm going to get a submission in round 2. That's my personal prediction.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. This has been Quillan Salkilld, who fights Anshul Jubilee at UFC 312. Once again, that fight, February 8th. So, Quillan, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.